Namaste, beautiful yogis. Welcome to our Yin Yoga class, joined with our trusty helper here, Coconut, who'll help to ground the energy, help us to feel that beautiful animal medicine, the dog medicine of loyalty and unconditional love, and they're just man's best friend, woman's best friend, aren't they? So let's use him as our theme. Let's become our own best friends. Yoga, in particular Yin Yoga, helps you to dive deep within to the inner quiet and just connect with the part of you that is all-knowing, that has a sense of being an infinite being, that no harm can come to you no matter what. When we settle into that place of trust and of goodness, the truth of who we are, then all those burdens, all those things that our mind has been trying to work out can just subside. We can just let it all go now. We can just return to present moment awareness. Be here, drink in the glory of who you really are, that God, Goddess self, that infinite self, and just bask in your own internal beauty. So because I'm not doing a voiceover, I have got my, I'm not going to check my text. It's just my phone to set the timer, so we make sure we're doing, that 5 minutes in each of the posts. So please excuse my device, that's what it's there for. If possible, have a block, a cushion and a bolster, but honestly you can improvise. So instead of a bolster, you could have a few cushions, big cushions. Instead of a block, you could just have a big book or something like that. But if you've got props, then fantastic, you can go ahead and have those at your disposal. So let's just do a few simple arm circles so that we can get some heat into the body. So we'll start just of all by grounding through our sit bones. Have a wriggle around, and we'll inhale, draw the arms up and above the head, and exhale and bring the hands down in through prayer pose. And if you've got an animal at home that's getting involved, give them a nice pat. Inhale, draw the arms up, and exhale, center through prayer. So it's a nice way to connect with our breath, just to make sure that the in-breath is even to the out-breath. It's through the evenness of breath that we really start to go past that rapid fire thinking. We can settle into soul energy, settle into a state of peace, equilibrium. So keep breathing, keep flowing, harnessing that life force energy, that prana through the breath, drinking it in, swelling from lower belly up to collarbones as you inhale, and as you exhale, just let it all go. So continue to breathe. Continue to feel. Yoga is so wonderful, activates the feeling self. And the feelings, whether they're emotional feelings, sensations in the chakras, sensations in the meridian system, all of these feelings give you a sense of who you are. So you don't logically work things out in your life, you just go with feeling. And we might call that feeling intuition, instinct, inside. It all starts with in, doesn't it? It means you find your truth within. In here is the truth. So you can just release out of those arm circles. So let's just first of all have our block. And we're going to set ourselves up in a beautiful Sphinx pose. So Sphinx is incredible. Let's start our timer here for our 5 minutes. You'll hear a ding at the end. So just release the other props. They can go out of the way for the time being. And we're just going to have the block up the top of the mat, and you'll roll over and onto your stomach. So the hands can just frame the block there, and you can spread your fingers out. You want to plant into the tops of your feet. Press your hip bones down into the earth. Inhale, draw long through your spine. A little gaze up to begin with, just to see how that feels for your lower back, because that's where the impact of this one is going to be for you. And then exhale and just adjust your block as you need to. And you can take your third eye down into the block. So it may not be high enough for you. If it's not, just turn the block on another setting and just see, does that give your spine that natural arch where it needs to be? It could be higher up again. So where is it for you? We've got 30 seconds or so to come into the pose, wriggle around and just find where we need to be. And then all that grounding through the top of the feet and into the hands, that actually relaxes now, because yin isn't about activation in terms of the muscular system. We want to let that go. And just by creating the shape of the pose, and remember, you might need to take those arms out a little bit more. For me, that's what I sense I want to do. Once we find where we need to be in the pose, we need to remain still physically. So the shape of the pose gets a natural activation of the meridian system, the internal energy lines, a little hum of energy pulsing through the meridians. At the first stages of the yin pose, doesn't feel like too much is going on, but the magic happens because we're holding the pose. We're holding the body in a still sense in this shape for, as I said, 5 minutes. So it can be challenging for the mind, particularly people who are not able to sit still, particularly people who need to jump around and keep themselves busy. Then they actually need more yin yoga, more restorative yoga. Make sure the breath is still flowing deep, full and even. Notice the stimulation for the third eye chakra, the pineal gland. And you can look inwards and upwards into that space, into that internal cave. When we first start practicing yoga or any type of meditation, spiritual ritual, sometimes the third eye seems like it's just dark when we look in there. And then over time it awakens and we see sometimes colours, geometric patterns, sometimes full visions. If you've always been naturally able to visualise, fantasise, if you have a strong imaginative process, even if you were told as a child to shut that down, your spiritual mission will remind you to reawaken it, really get involved in that internal process, that activity in the third eye, because it's your own connection to wisdom. You don't need to plug that third eye chakra into other realities. You only need to plug it into your own reality, your own creation here. And the third eye chakra has been hijacked by external images that have come through, violence in our media and our programs that we watch, violence towards each other, violence towards women. And we need to shake out, we need to empty out all of those images that may have caused us to feel like that's what life is. So that hijacking process that may have gone on, we are just letting it go and we're plugging back into our own reality. And of course, as yogis, we're very aligned to creating peace. Peace within ourselves creates peace on earth. So as you look inwards and upwards, just visualize a peaceful image for yourself, for your life. How does peace look in your life? See it clearly in your mind's eye. There's our trusty chime. So inhale, bring the head up, and then take the hands back and sit your way up and draw those knees in, sitting down onto your heels and just pausing there for a moment. So a nice gentle one to get us started, but we'll just remain here with our eyes closed. You may feel that natural stimulation through your lower back there. It might be, of course, more in the third eye. It gets quite a good massage, doesn't it, there? Holding the third eye onto the block. So wherever you feel, it could be somewhere else in your body, could be the meridians running up through the legs. So just observing and just noticing how you feel. So we've worked into that lower back. Let's see if we can get a little bit higher up into more that thoracic spine area. And we're still going to use our block here. So let me just set our timer again. And then we can know we've got that good 5 minutes, including time to get into the pose. So here we go. The block now can be used for that thoracic area. This is a time where you may also need to have your bolster and maybe even a cushion on top of the bolster. Now for me, I know I don't need that extra cushion, but depends on how open your back is or how much you want to be open and hold, remember, for the 5 minutes as you arch back. So just find that middle back area and we'll just pull the soles of the feet up and together and then just start to open. The block should sort of kind of just touch in between the shoulder blades there and just see where that bolster may need to be for you. And remember, you can have a cushion on top of the bolster, so have a wriggle around until you feel you're in the pose where you need to be. And then you can open your arms. Now, of course, those legs don't need to be in butterfly pose. They can be straight out in front of you. So just whatever feels good, because what we're really doing here is keeping that arch in that middle back area. You're also going to feel that big spread across the pectorals, across the chest area. Now, I've got the block probably at its highest. If you still want to adjust from here, remember you can have a little wriggle and just maybe take the block onto a lower setting. And then find stillness. Be here with your breath, awakening the internal forces through your internal gaze. What do you feel there through your thoracic spine? Yin's not always comfortable. Restorative yoga, where we hold for 10 to 20 minutes, the poses are much more gentle. Yin can be still quite dynamic. And this one certainly is that little bit more dynamic, isn't it? So just experience what's happening. Of course you have permission to move, but actually if you're okay, then choose to remain still. Choose to go past just physical sensation. Choose to embrace metaphysical sensation. Feel the breath. As you hold this pose and you work with your breath, you dissolve any tension through that middle back area. Said that the middle back metaphysically can represent middle childhood. So sometimes we're curious how old memories spring up when we're doing our practice. Could be that memories from middle childhood spring up. And even if they don't, what's one middle childhood memory that comes to your mind when you inquire? When we say middle childhood, we're probably talking anywhere between ages 10 to 15, something like that. What's an image, a memory that comes up? Just explore that memory a little bit more. Why has it come up today? What emotions were you feeling in this memory? Can you hold space for yourself as a child? Can you hold space for these feelings, this memory? Can you forgive yourself for what you may have been participating in at this time? Can you forgive the other people who were part of this memory, if there was anyone else? Keep breathing. Keep letting go, dissolving tension. There's our trusty chime. So you want to bring the chin into the chest, hands come down, and then just support yourself as you draw your way up. And then I've still got my legs here in butterfly, so that's good, but it doesn't matter where your legs are. But this time you want to hang the head all the way and forward. Make sure you soften out through your shoulders, through your elbows, and just be really droopy here as you just hold and observe. This space in between our yin poses is so important because physically we feel the rush of energy through the meridian system. It's like you've dammed up that meridian when you're holding the pose. When you come out of it, it kind of bursts open the dam, the rush of energy. So you want to experience that's very pleasant. But it could mean that emotions that were dammed up have to run too. And this is why we say in yoga that no one's practice is, going to look the same, be the same, feel the same. We've all had a different journey. We've all held on to some things, other things we've let go of. But those things we've held on to, they're coming to the surface when we practice, and it's not always giggles when we practice. Particularly yin yoga gets into the deeper stored or buried emotions. But with the light of your higher self shining in as you practice, it's all perfect. In fact, you, on a higher level, you are excited that you are releasing this old energy. So the two can coexist. You may sometimes want to cry or feel angry or feel hurt, and yet higher self is rejoicing in the fact that you are strong enough, courageous enough to now explore this and to let it go, which means it changes your future timelines, it changes your destiny. Because you don't have to play out all that old buried gunk anymore. So inhale, let's sit our head up and let's just move now into the next pose. And we're going to start to work into the hips. So if you did hold those legs there as you're releasing your thoracic spine in this butterfly pose, then you would have got that gentle awakening into the hips anyway. So let's just increase that opening and we'll move into Raja Kapotasana. It is our pigeon pose. So I'm going to release this block out to the side. You can use bolster or cushion, doesn't really matter. And you've got some options too to use your bolster, cushion or block if you want, depends what you've got. Maybe under the hip flexor at the front of the pose, or it could be the leg that is forward and you can sit a cushion bolster under that front leg hip. So you'll know what I mean when we get to it. For me, a cushion's nice. I kind of like having the cushion there just for my third eye. Again, for some of you it's not going to feel comfortable. You may be better off having the head to the side. So I'll start now with my left knee forward. So I'll just swing it around like this. And this would be a nice version of the pose as well. So I could just be here inhaling and then exhaling. I could take my third eye down onto my hands or straight onto the cushion, hands beside or head to the side. Now, for some of you, that'll be enough of a release coming through the gallbladder stomach meridians into this front leg hip. For others, though, you are going to be better off to maybe do a fuller version of your pigeon, even if you want to sort of set it up as if you were going into a really extended version, just so you could see how that feels for you. This is the time then when you may need that cushion under the front leg hip, or for some people, you might need a block under this hip flexor area here. You can play around with it, remember, it's your practice, it's your yin practice. So for me though, this is nice here. Remember you've got that version to pull the back leg in. So let's get our timer set up now and we'll have a good juicy 5 minutes here in our pigeon pose. So bit more time for a wriggle, getting your props where they need to be. Once you find that, inhale, bring some length up through the spine, and I like to have my hands down here, and then I can rest my third eye straight down, or you can have the head to the side. Again, you can have a good 30 seconds or so to have that wriggle around And then just find where you need to be. So where you were extending in the pose, you need to just relax it all off now. You need to dissolve any tension through the muscular system, any need to contract, any need to extend. Even the bandhas don't come into play when you're doing yin pose, so that whole belly area can just go very soft. The softer it is, the fuller you can fill the belly with the inhalation. Dissolve the tension off your shoulders. And feel the current of energy, the prana, running through that front leg hip. And you're just observing, you're just being here with what is. Nothing to fix within yourself, because just the act of practicing, observing, breathing, creating this shape in this yin pose, that's already doing the healing. So there's no mental activation per se. You're not mentally trying to fix anything. You're not mentally needing to figure anything out. You might receive higher messages that seem to come through the mind, but they come from a different place, not from analysis. They come from a higher self whisper, if you like, a little seed drop. And you can pick it up through the mind and you can decode what that means. But remember, it's not through engaged thinking. It's through being open. So really delight in your inner worlds. Learn to experience your inner worlds as equally, if not more valid than your outer reality. We're not conditioned, particularly as Westerners, we're not conditioned to honour our inner realms. We're conditioned to push the success in our outer world, to derive our sense of happiness from our outer reality. And yet yoga teaches us that peace, love, joy, it's always waiting for you deep within yourself. It's never not there. It's just been covered up by a lot of mind chatter, a lot of buying into the ego. And when we say buying into the ego, it's not that there's anything wrong with you, because everyone does it. We've all got an ego. It's just we learn to be discerning of when it's ego operating in our life or when it's higher self. So sometimes you go on this yoga journey and you realize, hey, I don't need to do all these things to prove myself. My main job is just to come within and be peaceful as often as I can, and then to let that peace govern my outer reality. Let my peace decide what I want to do in this life. The more you can dissolve tension, the more you can just love yourself just as you are from deep within, the easier it becomes then not to get swayed by external forces, to navigate through life based on what leads you to your next piece and your next piece and your next piece. Follow the peace trail. Sometimes we can't follow the peace trail because we're carting around all this baggage from the past. There's our chime, inhale it. So let's now change sides, and you can just swing this other leg around, and then remember, find where you need to be. Set yourself up with your props, however that needs to be. Just a reminder, one side doesn't need to look the same as the other. It maybe does go against what you've learned in your more yang styles of yoga with alignment. However, just remember, if you've had an injury, an accident on one side of your body, then it makes sense that when you're releasing that side of the body, the shape has to look different, because the prana has a natural intelligence to find that blockage, to go around that blockage, to gradually release that blockage until there's just that good throughput of energy again. So if the shape has to look different to allow that, you've got to trust your intuition. You don't want to force the body to look the same as the other side. So go with that. And where do you need to be? Let's get our timer ready here. Find your spot, wriggle, wriggle, wriggle. As I said, you've got a good 30 seconds just to get yourself into that position. Let the third eye come down into the hands. Soften off through your shoulders. Breathe. Be. What's happening on this side of the body? Does it feel similar to the sensations on the other side of the body, or is it completely different? Sometimes we're surprised to find out that it can be quite different. And it reminds us of metaphysics. And we're taught in metaphysics that the left side of the body is feminine, the right side of the body is masculine. So if there's a blockage on the left side, it could be to do with women in our life, it could be to do with our spiritual life, said to be feminine. Right side, men in our life, could be financial, working life. And again, there's nothing wrong with you when you discover that there's a little hiccup in the energy field. And the beautiful part about metaphysics is it just reminds you where to pay attention, where to heal, where to balance, and we're constantly doing through that as humans throughout our life. That's why in metaphysics we have to remind ourselves there's nothing wrong with us. We're absolutely perfect. We're just given these clues of how to create more balance, how to heal, how to have internal breakthroughs, which lead to big external breakthroughs and success. Trying to have outer success without doing the inner work usually leaves you anxious and tired. When external success comes as a byproduct of creating more peace, more flow, more love, more joy internally first, then you get to enjoy that external success without being burdened by it, without being attached to it. It's a different way through in your life. It's a different way to be. Keep feeling your breath. If anything, you should feel the belly really expanding out as you inhale, and just a natural contraction as you exhale. Learning to let that belly go loose is a big gift to yourself. You don't have to hold it in, you don't have to hold it taut. It doesn't mean that you're fat if you let your belly go loose. It actually means you're more peaceful. Think of Buddha. Buddha always depicted with the big belly, the big expansive belly breath. So beautiful. Dissolve tension more and more. The more you breathe deeply, the more you let the belly go, the more you'll flood your whole system with relaxation, with an alkaline energy. It's the opposite to being acidic. Acidic energy comes from not breathing deeply, comes from eating acidic foods, thinking acidic thoughts. Alkaline is where you want to be. That's when your whole system becomes attuned to health, to higher frequencies. The thoughts are naturally peaceful. You don't have to force yourself to be peaceful. You are peaceful. It all goes and works in tandem, because then you kind of naturally want to reach for fruit and vegetables and whole foods. You don't want those acidic foods anymore. You notice the more yoga you do, the more you just naturally clean up your diet. Don't have to force it. It's not willpower. And all the time you're gentle on yourself. It's through that gentleness with self-love. Even if you are eating some more junky type foods, Still gentle with yourself, still loving yourself, still observing yourself. Still noticing how those foods make you feel from a place of curiosity, not condemnation. How's that hip feeling? We're deep into the pose now. Just keep observing, keep breathing. So inhale, let's bring the head up. And then we'll just release on out. And just whatever pose you want to be in, we'll just have that pause now. We've done both sides of the body. And just remember that Yin Yoga also trains you how to be in a meditative state. So often on the days where you're doing your Yin or restorative yoga practices, you may not need an extra meditation practice, because it is meditative by nature. I mean, all yoga is meditative by nature, but there's less distraction from the movement of the physical body. And in fact, as I sit here, I can kind of feel my Kundalini energy wants to move. That's how deep and inward these practices make us. So if the Kundalini is flowing for you, let it go, anti-clockwise spiral. If not, just manually get it going, anti-clockwise spiral through the spine, just observing and breathing, feeling and letting go. Just got one more yin pose before we go into our final Savasana. I kind of don't want to come out of that one, that's so nice, but let's keep on going. So I'm going to need my bolster for this one, but remember, if you don't have a bolster, just stack some cushions up. You want kind of, 2 or 3 cushions so you can get some length behind you. So here we go, the trusty bolster. For me, this is quite a big bolster, and it's quite sort of cushioned. But again, improvise, do what you need to do. So we've opened the hips externally. Now we want to get that hip socket to rotate internally. It's not an action that a lot of people do because if you grew up, I grew up in Australia, I'm not sure where you're watching this from, and we were made to sit cross-legged at school. When we sat on the floor, we weren't actually allowed to sit the other way, which is very counterintuitive to the way that children will naturally want to move. Sometimes they like cross legs, and other times they like this pose, Savasana, that we're about to go into. So as adults, we kind of have to retrain those hips, because hips, like any ball and socket joint, need to move in different ways. So if you feel you can't do this pose, then that's okay. What you can do is just have your knees together and feet down, and you can kind of get yourself laid back. It'll still kind of get that same gentle turning in of the hips, but if you can, come with me, roll over and onto your knees. Knees are together in this fashion. You want to just release out the calves, so you've got the feet pointing up. Now, you could have a cushion under these knees here as well if you need to. If you need a little bit more height. It just depends, really. Remember, you can have feet down, knees tucked in together. Even the feet got to go wider and wider, so the knees eventually sort of want to fall to the earth. And then pull that bolster in so it's right there in your lumbar spine. Let me get our timer going. We'll have a good 5 minutes. That's quite a long time when you're holding Virasana, even though it's Supta Virasana and you're laying back. So I want to give you permission, particularly with this one, it's very dynamic. If you need to gently move out at around, say, the 3-minute mark, that's fine. 2.5 minutes is where we can access the connective tissue when we're doing a yin pose. That's why we have to hold them for so long. So we're not releasing the muscles, we're wanting to get into the connective tissue, the fascia in the body, okay? So it takes longer to get in and to release it. So if you can, at least 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, and then, gently wriggle out and then just hold and wait for us all to come back, just meditate through it. Or find that modified version right now. So depending on where you are, let's get into the pose because I've been talking, and we can have our 5 minutes here. So it really doesn't matter what you want to do with the arms. In fact, today I'm going to take them above the head. It's going to give me a different kind of release as well. It's going to give me a nice extra bit of length through my spine, an extra bit of length through my arms. So the arms can just be out at the side, wherever you want them to be. Move into your breath. Just study the knees with your internal focus, your internal awareness. Get intimate with your knees. Give them some love, give them some attention. Same for your hips. Conversations with your knees, with your hips, or with any other part of your body that's kind of talking a bit louder at the moment. Just listen, be curious. What have they got to tell you? Remember, your body speaks to you through sensation. So you learn to decode what that sensation means. How deep can your breath be? How much can you let go? As you let go, you remember who you are beyond the physical, who you are as that infinite being. Where did you come from before you incarnated here on earth? As children, we often knew where our star home was, and then we forget. And sometimes when we're practicing yoga, we have some mysterious insights. Maybe it's a connection to Pleiades or Andromeda or Arcturus, Orion, Lyra. Galaxies, constellations that you've always been naturally interested in. Maybe there's a key there, a key to yourself as a star being. Even if it just seems like a dreamy imagination, it doesn't matter. Following the threads, following the trails, listening to the higher guidance, remembering who you are. You might be relieved to hear that chime, so hands go down. Make sure you take the weight into your hands to bring yourself up. And sometimes we've got to pause here and just figure out the way to come out of the pose that, serves our body. So what do you need to do? For me, I'm going to come forward. You might need to wriggle to the side. But for me, I feel like I want to go forward and lift my buttocks and then pull my feet in and then just sit down onto those heels. Knees just can remain wide as I just observe and I just let that damming up effect rush the energy again. Just be here and breathing. Aware of all the sensation, loving all of it, even if sometimes it's unpleasant. Reveling in it when you get those real pleasant, beautiful releases. So your choice now, final Shavasana, you can use the bolster if you want to do like a heart opening version, or you can just lay yourself flat down on your mat for a traditional Shavasana. So I'm going to do the heart opening version. So legs out and let them go quite wide. My bolster's there in my lower back, arms out to the side, feet flopped out, fingers curled in slightly. And just enjoying, if you've got an eye pillow, pop that over the eyes. It's useful because it shuts out the light, but it also re-stimulates that third eye chakra. Blanket if needed, whatever. It's going to get you cozy. Breath is still deep and full, and yet often when we practice yin or restorative or any shavasana or in any class, sometimes we feel like we're being breathed. It's a sensation that if it's happened to you, you'll know exactly what I mean. You're being breathed. The breath becomes effortless, becomes so deep, it just has a natural journey of its own. Feel the expansion and contraction of the breath as if your whole body is breathing. It's almost like the auric field around your body expands and gently contracts with that breath without you having to try. Connect to the stars, the star home. Just ask for a higher message from yourself as that future star being. It's said that our star selves are aspects of ourselves, but in the future, and yet in the spiritual construct of all time existing as now time, you can receive those messages in this moment, spoken from yourself as that star being. It sounds like a paradox, and you've got to use your imagination to go there, but that's the point of spirituality. It's not of this three-dimensional reality. It's not about logic. Just allow that message to come in now. Just ask for it and allow it to come in. If you need to, after this class, write down that message. And for now, let's just gently open our eyes, wriggle our fingers and toes. Inhale, draw the arms up and above the head. Exhale, bring them down through prayer. Shift the feet to the floor, knees are bent. Grab hold of those knees. Inhale, chin to chest. Reach further down for the knees and then draw yourself up. If you're laying all the way out flat, that may not be as easy to do, but you can just roll up to the side and then we'll all come and sit in crossed legs or one heel in front of the other, Siddhasana, whatever suits you. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful Yin Yoga class. It just feels so wonderful, doesn't it? So revel in that internal peace. Know that you are the master, you are the creator of this energy, you are the healer for yourself, and you are in this moment radiating peaceful waves out for the collective consciousness. So you are doing your part to anchor peace on earth. Mwah. Namaste.